Sam is back on No Tippy Tappy Football, yay!
When the big man's back, I sit over here.
Newcastle was there for the taking and we failed because of our own frailties.
Yeah,
It's
try and
Leeds
save-
United, Tim.
Absolutely.
You have to, you know what I mean?
I think-
And you'll leave me say you can go on a free.
I think.
Are you sure?
I'm not sure.
This is Daniel Levy.
Not one of them managers said to me he would play in the Premier League. They'll still feel it though, Sam, won't they?
Oh.
Their biggest asset is the fans, isn't it?
No doubt about it.
Any regrets? Anything you wish you'd done different, or just any regrets at all for your time so far at Leeds? Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of No Tippy Tappy Football, brought to you by William Hill. And I'm confused. I don't really know what to do right now because, of course, usually our gaffer introduces our guest, but we have two gaffers today, so I don't know what to do.
I know
Tim?
my place. Let me help you out.
Okay.
I know my place. When the big man's back, I sit over here.
Okay.
Well, I thank Tim for stepping in. It's, thank you very much for keeping the podcast going.
You'll recognise the voice because, yes, he is back. Sam is back on No Tippy Tappy Football. Yay! Welcome. Okay, Sam, I'm so excited to see you. Would you like to introduce our guest then?
Well, he's well known to us all now, isn't he? And he's done a good job while I've been trying to keep Leeds United in the Premier League, which sadly, from my point of view and everybody else's, didn't happen. But Tim, thank you very much, and thanks for coming again today.
It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed it. It's been great.
Thank you, Tim. Yes, we've been keeping ourselves afloat for the last four weeks. Has it been 4 or 5 weeks? But
Yeah.
Seems a lot
lovely
longer
to
for
have
me.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, we're thrilled to have you back, Sam. This is Tuesday, so it's only 2 days after the end of the Premier League season. Can you give us a kind of summary? How was your time at Leeds?
Well, I have to say that getting back into head coach, another scenario that's happened in the game today, was manager doesn't seem to be a word anybody wants to use anymore, but head coach on the grass, back on the training ground, back amongst everybody, staff, players. Leeds United, the size of the football club, was obviously a pleasure to get there and a pleasure to try and help them in their predicament to stay in the Premier League. I think many factors in the end didn't allow us to get where we wanted to get, but ultimately we weren't good enough in the end, as much and as hard as we tried. And the players' effort is there. The players' effort was there without a doubt from the start, because Carl Robinson, Roy Keane came in, lifted up the players, great characters, really good coaches. Robbie concentrating on the strikers because goals were a rarity for us, and then Carl in coaching terms, midfield tactics, me doing team play and trying to get the team to achieve the ultimate goal, which was to win a couple of games at least to see if we could stay in the Premier League. That wasn't the case. But the ultimate real disappointment, I'd have to say, after all the hard work we did, was Sunday's match. And the escalation of basic errors at critical moments in the game, which made it look really embarrassing, which was really sad, because in between that, there was 21 shots at goal, but on target only 2. So you could see the amount of play we had, but that means nothing to the fans and to the press and everybody else, because you've got hammered 4-1, and apart from the last goal, all 3 goals were our mistakes, more than Tottenham's great play. So that's something that sort of fed through to me from Man City. Was a great effort. I mean, this Man City we're playing, but Newcastle was there for the taking, and we failed because of our own frailties. And I think that win would have kept us safe, but because we threw that away, it went on and on and on, and probably through most of the season, when you look back, that's been the fault. I think conceded nearly 80 goals. So it was a brave effort by us all, even the players, and I have to say, they put the effort in, and they turned up, and they were disciplined and tried to do the right things. But I think ultimately at the end it was just a bit too much, the pressure and everything surrounding it.
Would you do it again?
Well, I don't. I have to see what's Leeds United. I have to meet with them because we're going to arrange that before the end of the week. They obviously have to reflect on what's happening at the top, and then me to have a discussion with them and see where we go.
No, I mean, Sam, if you had to make that decision again, would you go back in there and
It's
try
Leeds
and
United, Tim.
Absolutely.
You have to, you know what I mean?
I think it's a no-brainer.
I look at the fixtures and I go, you know, that's that's more than tough, you know what I mean? Yeah. But, you know, it's an opportunity to get in amongst the players again. And I think that when you are out of it for 2 years, which is probably the longest I've been out of it, you'll never stop missing it for all the pressures that's with it and all the times you go, you know, you can't do this forever. It's bad for your health and all that stuff. Like, you mean, in the end, it's a drug, like you mean. So if you get the opportunity and you think you can help, and that's the most important thing. So, you know, support from the club and everything we wanted to do as quick as we want to do it, that was there. But unfortunately, the results didn't match the effort.
Yeah, I mean, with 4 games you went in there, how many games do you think would have given you a realistic chance? And due to the, I think
realistically, if I'd have got it when they chose to pick Garcia to take over, which was probably would have given you about 14, 16 games.
Yeah, and
that would have been enough to implement You all hope it starts from the beginning. You all hope you start. I mean, when look at what happened with Roy, Crystal Palace, it was unbelievable. Like, I mean, and you know, a new voice and a different voice and a different way of coaching, turned that around extremely quickly. But it isn't really about that. It's just a change of manager and all the players going out to try and prove themselves they can play for the new manager.
Yeah. It's
only what you do after that to sustain it.
And getting a win.
And getting a win.
Quickly.
And that's it, you know what I mean? I mean, when I was at Palace, it actually took me 6 games to win. And everybody was saying, what's he doing here?
Yeah.
He shouldn't be here, you know, he's not the right man for the job. But at the end, we achieved the ultimate goal because you continue the level of training, you continue the level of performance all around the team, an organisation, and you pick the teams to suit the opposition you're playing against in a difficult position. And then all of a sudden you get consistency. Yeah. And then when you get consistency, you get results. And I think that early stage, you're keeping your fingers crossed that they'll go out and get that result for you and lift everybody. We didn't manage that.
You were close at City, though. I mean, towards the end, there was a miss right at the end of the game that could have equalised it.
I know there's been a miss everywhere for us at certain occasions. Like, I mean, I think that, you know, there's. So I always think that sometimes there's certain factors. This will sound strange coming from me, but there's the unknown and the things you can't control that happen in football that bounce in your favour or bounce against you. So two goals at West Ham were less than an inch offside, or should I say 15 millimetres now? Because hardly anybody knows what inches and feet are now. So there's that, you know what I mean? There's 2 goals that might not have happened for West Ham. It was that close, like, you mean. So, you know, that sort of thing goes in your favour. But ultimately, at the end, you've got to control your controllables, and that was. We couldn't keep a clean sheet, and the chances we created, it was too many chances needed to score. Yeah. So we'd scored in maybe 1 in 6, 1 in 7, or like I said, 21 attempts at goal, only 2 on target, and there's the ultimate problem.
Yeah. I mean, that game, Harry Kane was the difference.
Yeah. I mean,
ultimately, that's a close game of football.
Yeah. I mean, he's just unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, it's like. You know, you see other players doing that, going through and all that, you know what I mean? And you think you get a bit nervous, you know, listening to them, watching them, and you think, is he going to score or isn't he? Yeah. Harry goes through, you know he is.
Yeah, you know he's going to score.
You're going to think, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's he's not going to miss. And Tottenham in a difficult period. I mean, we spent a lot of time on looking at the Tottenham at home against Brentford, and how many weaknesses that they showed.
Yeah.
But when we exposed those weaknesses, unlike Brentford, we didn't score.
Yeah.
But when you have a team set out, and as I said before, the back four, back five, stop Harry Kane, stop Son, and obviously. He's clever enough to find the space, even with them lads. And if the lads switch off, he'll find that space and he'll punish you. But to the first goal, particularly, I mean, at that stage, 2 minutes into the game, shouldn't have happened. I know they're all going out a little bit nervous, but you've got to be able to do what you know you should be doing as a defender. And the second goal, just after half time, but Harry on the breakaway. He's just so relaxed.
Yeah.
He just like passes it in the net.
Yeah.
It's not a shot. He just sort of, I'll just pass this one in the net and that's it,
Definitely want to talk more about Harry Kane in a bit because obviously it's incredible season.
Where's he going?
That he's
That's
had.
what I want to know.
Yes,
Nowhere.
yes. We'll
Leeds.
We'll get into, and I've got to tell you something that Tim said while you're off as well, but we'll get on to that. In terms of Leeds, I mean, it's an incredible fan base that they have there.
It is.
How did you get on with the fans? What did you make of the fans? And do you have any message for them?
I mean, look, I understand the disapproval, and I would have been surprised if they didn't show the disapproval after Sunday's performance with everybody, like you mean, and I think that, but when they were at Man City and when they were against Newcastle, they were helping the team, but obviously it started against Tottenham. They were there to help the team, but when everybody got kicked in the gut, and that just killed the atmosphere of the fans, and also killed the players for a while. Even though they responded quite well after that, and you've got to take these moments as a professional, and you've got to not let them happen in such a big game. You know what I mean? Because the fans can make a difference. There's no doubt about that. But in the end, of course, they show the disapproval, and I agree with that 100%. Like you mean, but they will still turn up no matter what. And always have and always will. They just deserve more. Yeah. And whatever happens from here on, got to try and get back into from the Championship back in the Premier League for the first time. I'm asking.
What do you think needs to happen? How can they bounce straight back?
It depends how much of the squad they keep, or what they decide they want to lose. It's not in your hands. I've got to talk to Leeds before the end of the week to see where we might go if we do go in that direction. So that's obviously something that we'll talk about later in the week. But where do Leeds need to go and have a strong squad to play 46 games that plays Saturday, Tuesday for most of the season, and that's a different mentality. I did that it's been a while, but obviously did it at Bolton, ended up in the playoffs and getting in the Premier League 2001, and then did it with West Ham for a bit like now for the first year. We got relegated, we got back in the Premier League through the playoffs at West Ham, and that was a lot of work. That was 28 players out and 16 players in the summer to resolve, one, the financial situation, and two, have a strong enough squad to get promoted. And you have to take and look at what Burnley did and say this is what Leeds would need to do. Yeah.
Mentally, I think they got to buy in to the fact that they're going to be in the Championship because a lot of them players have been acquired. They've probably been sold a story by the club. This is me saying it, not you, that they're going to fight at the top half of the Premier League. And when they see themselves getting relegated, sometimes these players don't want to roll their sleeves up and fight for the badge. They get on the phone to their agents and say, get me away from here. Can I get a Premier League club? And the answer, looking from the outside, from me, would be no. I think you're never, ever going to play for a bigger club than the one you're at. And I think you should try and bounce back, as Sam's suggesting, first time I've asked him. Because when you start winning football matches at Ellen Road, that crowd will get behind you. If you do not win a football match, they can be a hindrance, because sometimes the quality and the heart of the player is not strong enough to cope with the environment. But I think if they get on a roll, I think they're capable of bouncing straight back. I need the right man in charge, and I need the right squad of players. If everyone buys in, there's no reason why they can't do it.
The Championship is one heck of a league. I mean, it always is. It's so competitive, some incredible teams. Now, Sam, forgive me. I just want to tell you something that I heard Roy Keane said. I don't know if you have heard it.
Mr. Roy.
Mr. Roy has said he can't imagine you at Leeds in the Championship because he doesn't think your ego would let you manage in the Championship.
You mean my ego is bigger than Roy's? Come on, there's nobody got a bigger ego than Roy. I mean, there's some statement coming from him in it. You know what I mean? He mistakes ego for experience and confidence and the ability to do the job, in all fairness, which was much better than Roy did, wasn't it?
Oh, I've missed you, Sam. I've missed you. So in terms of that, you mentioned before that it's like managing is like a drug. Is this 4 games, has it relieved your itch temporarily? Or are you still, can you see yourself, you're still managing?
I have to just think about that decision. It's not a decision the club can make or I can make until we can meet. And I know the decisions need to be quite quick. But the decisions they make now are imperative to the success of the club. So they have to be carefully planned out and thought out and see what happens.
Have they got the correct football people in charge making the decisions, Sam?
Well, I think they can rebuild the infrastructure a little bit. I think that needs it. Yeah. Certainly, there's as you well know, Tim. Managing up is a very important part of being the head coach. Who are you working with and who are you dealing with? And that's a major success for the football club going forward. If we're all pulling in the right direction in terms of the hierarchy of the football club, from the ownership to directors to director of football, if it starts to do the commercial manager, the financial director, all pulling in the same way, same goal. But the ultimate secret, it's not a secret, is making sure recruitment's right. Yeah. But if the club doesn't make sure recruitment's right, then it doesn't matter how good a coach or manager you are or how good an infrastructure you have. Yeah. It will fail. Yeah.
But recruitment has to come hand in hand with a man who's in charge. Yeah. Like Vincent Kompany at Burnley. Yeah. I mean, they've not bought one player who Vincent doesn't know. Most of them have come from Belgium. You know, he knew that environment. He's brought them to, and he plays a certain way which suited them. And they outpowered teams, outscored them. I just think that too many people in charge of football clubs, and I'm not sure about Leeds because I don't know the ins and outs there, are making decisions and getting recruitment of players and giving them to the manager. That can't happen because the manager who they need now needs to know the Championship and he needs to know the Premier League. They might recruit someone on the recruitment side who has no knowledge, no experience of the Championship or the Premier League. Recipe for disaster.
Yeah, we've heard a few people say similar things throughout the season on the podcast, without a doubt. How did you find the media attention, Sam? Because I remember the City game, your first game, the amount of media, when you walked out the tunnel, it was like a paparazzi horde around you. And there was this wonderful picture that I remember seeing someone had taken from opposite the pitch, and it was Pep in his dugout, no one paying attention to him, you in your dugout, and a horde of press around you. What was that sudden, huge media attention like again?
I think he probably came around about the calculated first press conference, which was about just throwing them a line. You know what I mean? I threw the line with the weight on and the maggot on the hook, and wanted to create a diversion, which was something that the Mr. Alex taught me years and years ago about.
Yeah, I think you said that, didn't you? That's what you thought it was.
Diverting the pressure away from the players and putting it on yourself as the manager, which was, from that point of view, the focus of what was going on in the build-up to the game. So the game wasn't being talked about. The players weren't being talked about the troubles that they've had, or how bad they've been playing and how bad the results have been. It was all about big-headed Sam. You know what I mean? So it was a diversion, which most people got, actually. Not everybody, but most people got it. But it was, it was good. Good in terms of that point of view. In terms of you have to do whatever you need to do as quickly as you possibly can do to help the players perform. So, everybody calls it, if it's a top manager, if it's a top manager or a top four manager, calls it good psyching out. Like, you mean, when somebody like me does it, they don't hold it in the same light, but it's exactly that.
Yes, we talked about it, and that's exactly what you said on the podcast as well, that it would be. So I guess finally, any regrets, anything you wish you'd done different, or just any regrets at all for your time so far at Leeds?
I don't think I could have worked and tried and investigated everything we possibly could have investigated to try and help the players overcome the position that they're in to try and stay in the Premier League. We changed training grounds. We changed direction in terms of the last game, playing at Ellen Road, training at Ellen Road for 3 days. We had some of the old players of, iconic players like Gordon Strachan, Eddie Gray, Gary McAllister coming to the training ground, having a chat with the players about how much it means to them, the club, what the club, what status it's in, what position they held in terms of when they played there or worked there, because Gary was actually manager of Leeds for a while. So we sort of tried, we relaxed the players, gave them some time off. When we first got there, they hadn't had a day off in 24, 25 days, been in every single. That becomes more like, instead of a pleasant training ground, it becomes more like a prison, claustrophobic, and so we gave some time off, and we saw the benefit of that physically on the pitch, because the levels of high intensity and speed went right up compared to what it was before we got there. But obviously, from the mentality point of view and concentration point of view, we let ourselves down with the mistakes we made.
Well, on next week's episode, Sam, I shall ask you if your phone has rung, as we always
we shall have
used
had
to
next
do.
week. We shall have had, we'll have had a decision regarding Leeds, on what position is with them and what position is with me.
We hope you're enjoying watching No Tippy Tappy Football, brought to you by William Hill. And don't forget, you need to subscribe to the Footy Accumulators YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. So we'll move on and talk about some of the other kind of football things that are going on. And we mentioned him before, Harry Kane. 30 Premier League goals, Tim. An incredible, incredible season for him, especially when you compare it to Haaland's 36 and the difference of the teams that are around them. I mean, it's a sensational season for him.
Yeah, obviously because of Haaland's emergence and the way he's hit the floor running in the Premier League with the amount of goals. It's been outstanding. And along with that, they won the Premier League. So the highlight and the spotlight hasn't been on Harry, but he's had one of the best seasons he's ever had in the Premier League. 30 goals is an amazing return for a team he's finished 8th in the Premier League. Just heightens the heat really on Harry. What is he going to do in the future? Does he really want to move on? There'll be a lot of takers for him. But you cannot argue with them sort of numbers. We talked about him earlier. He's just pure class, Sam, isn't he? I mean, he just knows the game inside out. He knows why he's moving for others. He scores all different types of goals. He's just a phenomenon, the boy.
We looked in back to Harry, because there's way back at West Ham, 2012, maybe 13. Got substituted half time on loan for Norwich. Yeah. And obviously that loaning experience, I don't know how many loans he had. Do you remember, Tim? 3 or 4?
Probably 4. He went to Orient.
So he's gone and done Millwall, Orient, and
Leicester.
It's evolving.
Norwich,
Everybody must be thinking he's obviously got the hold up play, got the brain, but didn't quite start with the goals until eventually he goes back to Tottenham, and then all of a sudden it doesn't just go slowly, it goes bang straight and then carries on. It seemed to be like 20 goal plus every season. and it's gone on from there. And then some of the criticism that he's had goes 4 games without scoring. 5 games, it's a crisis. Harry's not done this, but always at the end of the season, he comes good. A few injuries, the injuries taking its toll and all that. And again, he comes back and back and back again, like you mean. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him for Tottenham, or is it going to be somewhere else, somewhere he can win the title, perhaps, or stick and be the ultimate legend at Tottenham. What do you think?
I'm not sure he leaves now. I think he's got 1 year left. I think that Daniel Levy holds the cards. And the cards where he'll play at the moment, I don't know, but I just got a hunch that he will say to Harry, no, you can go on a free at the end of next season.
What? Daniel Levy say you can go on a free?
I think.
Are you sure?
I'm not sure.
This is Daniel Levy.
Daniel Levy can make a decision based on money with this one.
Okay.
Where would they be without Harry Kane? And I would suggest probably mid-table at best. And they're pretty much mid-table now. They're 8th. I mean, they're out of Europe entirely. I think that he will have to bite the bullet, Daniel, and not let him leave. Now, we've seen Harry wanted to go and he wanted to wear the shirt of Man City. When he's looking for like every striker in Europe, we talked about it all over the world. They must look at Erling Haaland and think, and I know the guy's a phenomenon, but he's got a good support act there. I would say Harry Kane might get up there with the numbers what Erling's had if he would have been that man. And every striker must be looking in from afar and green with envy of having to play in that Man City side. It'd be fantastic to be able to do that. But he just got on with it. He never sulked. He got on with it, and he's played again and again. Now, he is one of their own. He has come through the academy. He's took a long road, like Sam said. We had to send him out on loan because I believe after under-18 football, there's not a competitive level.
No.
The 21s, the 23s is not for him, so I loaned him out. But every club he went to Orient, Russell Slade. He went to Norwich, Chrissy Hughton.
Yeah.
He went to Nigel Pearson at Leicester.
Leicester, yeah.
Kenny Jackett at Millwall. Not one of them managers said to me he would play in the Premier League. They all thought he would come up short. Now, not that they didn't like him, they just thought at that elite level.
Well, they didn't get enough goals probably then.
There was always something, Sam, and I don't blame them because they're entitled to their opinions. But there was always something he couldn't do. He can't do this, and they were telling me he can't do that. But I believed that he had the right attitude and desire and burning desire to improve every single day. And not only that, we're moving on another 10, 15 years. He still does it now. He still trains like that every single day. Now, that is a good example to any kids who want to. He does not believe there is a ceiling. There isn't a ceiling. Every single day he tries to improve himself, and that's why he turns in performances like he did at the weekend at Sam's expense.
Wow.
I agree with it. Let him go on a free. I think that every team is based around its striker and then its goalkeeper, and then you build the rest through the middle of the team and go down the outside. That's something everybody says if you want to, and you lose somebody with that many goals. Lukaku had been sold to Man United for 85 million, and Ronald didn't buy a front man. And by the time I got there, we were talking about, Wayne, who played more, dropped off the front line now. Calvert-Lewin, who's just a youngster, who was a bit like Harry, ultimately a really good player, but no goals or not enough goals. He showed that he can score goals, but obviously his injury taking a part. So that then became a problem, and I still think it's Everton's problem now.
You do wonder, I'm just thinking about Harry Kane, thinking about the links he had to City 2 years ago. I do wonder if he sits and thinks if he'd have gone, he'd now have 2 Premier League titles to his name.
I can answer that for him.
Yeah.
Yes,
you would. Yeah. I think that Pep said when I spoke to you after the game about he has been the element of why they've got so much better, Ireland. To just made them even better than they already were.
Yeah.
They do look the perfect team in the world at the minute.
Of course, Gundogan scored in the Leeds game. I don't know what's going on with him, Sam. I've no idea what's going on with his contract situation. Do you think City need to keep hold of Gundogan?
I think so, yeah. I think that unless it's out of loyalty with Pep, but I can't see that. You have to be extremely selfish as the manager or the coach. If you think he's going to be the man for you that season, you don't bow down to his demands. If he's demanding that he wants to leave and he's still... But is he out of contract?
Out of contract,
yeah. I think he's made a decision based on he wants to try something new. He's fed up of winning leagues and that. So, I can understand it. It gets boring after a while.
Is he... What nationality is he?
He's German. Yeah.
Turkish-German.
Turkish-German.
So
he
where
was
do we
German
think
captain.
he would go
Barcelona.
then?
Barca's the link, yeah.
Barca's the one. I think Barca... When the Real Madrid or Barcelona come for any footballer, I think it's a hard one to turn down, even though you're at Man City.
I got Alex Song from Barcelona and loaned back to West Ham, and it was the worst decision he made.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So, with all that achieved at Arsenal and all that happened at Arsenal once I got to Barcelona, I think he was heading towards more the politics than the football.
Yeah.
And about how that played a part there, like you mean. So, but perhaps he wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Who knows? But, when he came back, so I had a good Johnson as well. Thought it was going to be all things to everybody. Wasn't quite what he expected, but you can't turn it down though, I suppose.
I think you're better off, you can't die wondering. I think if Barca come and Real Madrid, I just think he's got to jump and you've got to take the opportunity because he's done it all here. Where's he going to go? I can't see him playing for another Premier League side. I know Mikel Arteta wants to take him. He knows the player inside out. He'll fit into anyone's team. Man City will be all right without him. They ain't worried about Gundogan. I love him. I think he's brilliant. But they couldn't do without Vincent Kompany. Couldn't do without Aguero, Ferrandino. All these group of players. They do, and they manage it. He finds a solution because he's got the funds to be able to do it, and he's got the mindset.
And the planning, they plan, I think, as well. There's always seems to be at the future planning.
Yeah. But he keeps, like Sam says, talking about Alvarez, keeps him happy. He brings in someone. He knows the mentality. He knows that Haaland's going to be the number one. He's giving him just enough game time to keep him fresh, keep him happy. Same with Phil. Foden at the moment, you'd think, wow, he's going to want to play every single minute of every game. Mahrez just gives him that little carrot every time, just drops him in, keeps everyone else thinking, falls out with players. Carl Walker said he couldn't play in his system. Then he brings him back in and he's lauding him because he's one of the top players. He's done the same to Kevin De Bruyne down the years.
Their model's ideal. Their model. They had an early learning curve at Man City about how precarious football is, about who and how and what they do to get where they want to get, like you mean, and you go through many stages where the players they buy and agents they deal with and all, and they worked all that out.
Yeah.
And then they decided when Pep was the man, they decided that Pep's players who worked with him at Barcelona, and they arrived.
Yeah.
They arrived with Pep's, and so that infrastructure there, with obviously
cheeky
chairman Mr. Calhoun knows and guided the club into this huge amount of sustained success, which is what is rarely talked about.
Yeah.
Now, Sam, I want to tell you about something that Tim said in the last couple of weeks. So we're talking about Harry Kane and where he might go. And Tim said that if United sign Kane and Rice, it would make them second favourites for the Premier League next season. What do you think?
Absolutely. I saw Declan Rice first hand at West Ham away. And it's rare you see somebody who's been brought up as a centre-half evolve as a centre midfield player as well as he does. I mean, it's the all-action midfield player. He's not what this labelled just a sitting anchor man. He's not that. He's everything. He's passing. He's box to box. He's, people will say perhaps not enough goals for 100 million, but whatever he brings to the team will evolve Manchester United in midfield down the middle, which we talked about where the strength lies. If Harry Kane goes there and Declan Rice goes there, then they will be fighting for spots 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And Casemiro will just kick on. You know, we saw him play at Real Madrid like Declan does for West Ham. It just as a 6, just sits there, breaks up the game. But I think Casemiro's got a little bit more than that. Yeah. I think if Declan goes and plays as a 6, I think he can go box to box. We've seen him stepping in and scoring a few goals recently. I think with him, Bruno, Harry Kane, Eriksen, Varane, I mean, Luke Shaw. I mean, they've got a serious squad of players there.
Third place finish this season, so...
Yes. Yeah, I did with them 2 players. What we said, well, obviously Harry Kane and we know Declan, but you haven't got to worry about a transition period. I know it's a big club, but I think they can both cope with going into that environment at Manchester United. And it's not like buying a foreign player and you're waiting for him. Martinez, I think, needs to get a mention as well. How good has he been? You know, little boy at the centre back, he's been brilliant. Yeah. Looks like a real warrior. Wants to get his foot in. Wants to be a leader. So yeah, for me, they would be 2 exciting signings. The only thing will hold that up is the takeover's taking too long. I'm not sure them 2 players will want to wait around to see who's going to take over at the club. I think they need to sort out their problems, or not the problem, the takeover first before they start buying their players. Obviously, that's going to mean that maybe Arsenal might step in for Declan Rice. Yeah. It's a player they need.
He's been linked for such a long time with so many different clubs. The West Ham, of course, have got 1 more game left this season. They've got the Europa Conference League final against Fiorentina. I mean, that would just be a lovely send-off for him to pick up that trophy.
Yeah, it'd be brilliant for him. You know, this all of a sudden this has turned into a fashionable competition. I mean, we saw the Villa fans celebrating like it was like the Champions League they qualified for. I remember the Intertoto Cup and no one took any interest whatsoever. And you look at the teams with the quality of the teams that are in that and the teams that are in this Conference League, they're very, very similar. But, fair play to West Ham. They're in it. They've had to play on the Thursday nights. They progressed their way through. And Sam knows the travelling fans there. It'd be amazing there for the West Ham fans.
What a sad venue. It only holds about 20-odd thousand.
Yeah, I saw
something. They get 5,000 tickets. That's all. I mean, it's just like, who planned that? You know what I mean? What's the logic behind it?
But that's the problem, Sam. If an English team get to the final, it's never going to be big enough.
No.
But if it wasn't an English team, you probably get some few empty seats in there.
Well, you saw it with Rangers last year and the amount of fans that they took for their European final last year. Have you seen, by the way, the price of the Champions League final tickets?
I haven't, no.
The cheapest one is £70, and that is in the gods. The most expensive one is £600, and there's 4 different tiers. Right. It just feels like that fans are just the last people that are considered in
always
these
the same,
occasions.
Cup final, FA Cup final, be the same, isn't it? Like, I mean, satisfying these fans has always been a major problem, and then you've all got where the tickets go to then package it up, so people will be paying £6,000, not 600 quid. So for the Champions League final, there'll be, you know what I mean? That 600. If you had a £600 ticket, you'll get £6,000 easy for it.
Yeah,
and probably as the closer it goes, get even more. Like, you mean? So they'll all be packaged up in various areas where, obviously people organise up lots of people to go and travel there, look after them, give them a great day out, and they have to pay through the nose for it if you like, but they're willing to do it. You're never going to stop that now. But the ordinary fan, hopefully the ones who can get the tickets, get the right ones, get the tickets. But it will always be a problem and continue to be a problem from that point of view.
Yeah, definitely. Well, before the Champions League final, we still have the FA Cup final, of course. Yeah. That is this Saturday. City take on United. As soon as I say it, my stomach jumps and I start.
Would you rather win that one, Natalie, or the Champions League final?
Easy. Champions League.
What?
Yes.
Even though you might beat Manchester United?
I don't really care about, I think we're at the point where the Champions League is the most important thing beyond beating them. However,
I think it'd be the easier game.
The Champions League, do you?
Yeah. I'm not sure it'd be easy, because they will sit back they won't come out and open up like Real Madrid did against Man City. But I think the hardest game will be the FA Cup final.
Yeah, it'll be the sweeter one, in terms of beating them. But the Champions League is the ultimate goal. Sam, you've played City recently. If you were going to give Erik ten Hag any tips, and please don't, how do you beat Man City from what you've seen?
I think that there's only one way you can exploit Man City, and that's Man City's eye line. They play so high up the pitch that if you've got the right amount of quality and the right quality of ball, and the players on the front line are intelligent enough to stay onside, then you can get behind them. But it's getting the ball. And when you don't get the ball as often as you would like, then you have to maximise the ball time that you do have.
Yeah.
So if your players mess it up, then you cannot even try and expose that weakness if it is a weakness, because ultimately it revolves in Man City's strengths, because Man City's, believe it or not, Man City's midfield and front players win the ball back more than the defenders.
Yeah. Because
they're that good at pressing in the opposition's half.
Yeah.
That's why I can't understand anybody that plays out against them.
Yeah.
I mean, they absolutely love it.
Just set traps.
They just sit off you and say, "Yeah, go on, we'll let you play out." You know what I mean? And then they just go, you know, and they're. I was speaking with Gordon Strachan, who's done some stats on Man City. Are the best at the basics. They're best at winning regains. The ball changes hands 7 times a minute, believe it or not. And they're the best at picking up those balls. They're the best at picking up those knockdowns. You know, so it's all the basics. All the basic work is in place, and they all do and anticipate the right things to do.
Yeah.
Not only in possession, but when they're actually defending, and that's like, you know, a unique situation on why they are the best, and that you know will continue for however long.
Yeah.
They buy the right players, more players will go out, and more players. I mean, last year they made a profit on player sales to players coming in, which is amazing. You know what I mean? But it'll be interesting to who comes in this season for next season, because I'm sure there's going to be. It might only be 1 or 2 now, because that's all they need. But where do you find the quality 1 or 2 to challenge the Man City players that are already there?
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to be an interesting summer, but 2 big games before then. I don't think I'm going to sleep for about a week. Before we do our quick final questions, other links. Obviously, we're at the point now where everybody's linked everywhere at the minute. The rumours everywhere. Jack Harrison being linked loads of different places. Obviously, I don't know if you're comfortable asking you that, Sam. Obviously, your situation's a bit. You don't know right now.
My contract, even though I might be. Not sure where staying or going to have a conversation, but I'm not in charge of that because my contract finished on the 28th, so it didn't run till the end of June like normal contracts. It just lasted till the 28th, so that'll be taken up by the club. You know, there's huge amount of disruption at a football club when it gets relegated, because it's doing the financial side of it. Is not only, it's critical to the club, like I mean, because they're going to have to look at how much money they're going to lose, to how many players they want to keep, and how much money do they want to risk losing to try and get back in the Premier League, and that is a big calculation from the financial directors. And does that match the squad that you can get to get promoted? That's a huge decision that needs to be made. That's my decision, you know. Have I got a chance of getting promoted with that squad?
Yeah.
You know, and that's the big question for me.
They'll still feel it though, Sam, won't they? Their biggest asset is the fans, isn't it?
No doubt about it. I mean, I think but it's starved for so long. I mean, it's unusual, you know, Tim, the 3rd year in. Because the stats are, year 1's the most difficult to stay. Everybody goes about second season syndrome. Season 1 is the hardest. Season 2 is less, increases by another 10% about the chance of staying up. But when you get to year 3, it jumps another 25, 30 normally. But that shows that you have to keep your best players if you can.
Yeah.
And Leeds haven't managed to do that. And when they've sold them, the replacements, unfortunately, and I'm not being unkind here, have not been as good as the players that left.
Yeah. Well, you see with the stat this year, I mean, all the teams that went up from the Championship stayed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how many times has that happened?
No.
It's probably one of the only times, if not a couple. So that makes it very difficult for everyone else.
It does indeed, and they can now move on from there and get better, like you mean.
Right, we'll do our quick fire, not so quick fire questions. Starting with this one, although we asked Neil Lennon last week this one, Tim, and he was very, very adamant that Ange Postecoglou would be at Celtic next season. Now, since that podcast,
I did say I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah, strong rumours to Spurs.
Yeah, I can understand in rumours because Tottenham keep going for these managers and seemingly they don't want the job. So I think Ange has done a good job. What can he do? He can't do any more than what he's done up there. I just think
have I seen you since Antonio Conte's burst out? I don't think I have you? No. What did you think of him?
It was brilliant.
I loved it. I thought it was so right. He was unbelievable.
Yeah, I take me back to about 2013 when I said exactly
the same. That's what I thought of when I saw him. When I was watching it, I was going, well, the honesty of this man here in front of the press is going to do one of two things. They're either going to suck it up or they're going to sack him, like you mean. And obviously the latter was always more likely to be.
He got what he wanted.
But, yeah, you know what I mean? But it was the truth. But it's why perhaps they're having a problem finding a top coach now, like you mean, because, the expectations of Tottenham means that if you don't get what the fans want, they're going to turn against you, like you mean, and often, in the right circumstances you can accept that, but sometimes when you're in the wrong circumstances you can't because it's beyond your control. But when you've had Antonio Conte and Jose Mourinho, who are serial winners, managing those clubs, and any other coach looking at it, is going with fear.
Yeah.
And really has to look at the squad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And say, will I be able to achieve with that squad? If they're in a very good position where they are and the club they're at the minute, it'd be very difficult for them to leave and take Tottenham over.
What would be your first question to Daniel Levy if he offered you the job?
What's Harry Kane doing?
Exactly.
I mean, if we've got Harry Kane, then we can, build a team around that. How do you keep Son?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
to be fair to Daniel, Sam, he's tried everything.
Yes.
He's gone for the trophy managers in Conte and Mourinho. Can't do much more than that. So he's tried to please the fans and get them something. He's just, what he's made huge errors on is the person, and we keep going back to it, it's a theme today, is the recruitment of players. The recruitment of players has not been good enough. 1 in 5 ratio with a decent player to the other who are not good enough. He's not good enough.
Yeah.
So you need to take that away from the people who don't know about football and give it to the people who do.
I think that you get the ultimate. I've always been of the opinion that you look at your budget and say, what is your budget? Like you mean, I think that now, because you're called head coach, you're not in charge of your own budget transfer wise now. Mm-hmm. It's other people are at the football club, and so you rarely get the opportunity to say, I want to spend that budget on this player. You can have your opinion, but they can still override it and not give you what you wanted. That didn't happen when I was at Bolton. That's my player, I'm getting him. Yeah, okay, Sam, you go ahead. It's in your budget, you can do what it's not what you want, but you can do within that, because I've proven what we can do and how we can do it, like you mean. Now that's not the case, like you mean. But if you've got a budget of 200 million, well, that's 4 players, 5 max for Tottenham. If you do, like you said, the Real Madrid money, and you do 8, it's not the right way.
Yeah,
because you got 8 average or just above average, rather than 4 top quality players to go straight in the team, and that will make all the difference.
Yeah. So do we think Ange
Was that a quick answer?
No, this is definitely non-quick fire questions. I didn't even get the question out, did I? Will Ange Postecoglou be Spurs manager next season?
No.
I would say no. Do you know why? I think he had a disappointing time in the Champions League, and I think he'll want to have a crack at it with Celtic, and it's a huge football club, Celtic.
Mm-hmm. Okay, where will Declan Rice be playing next season?
I'm going to say United.
Oh, Tim, okay.
Well, as long as he can travel past Watford, Man United. If he can't travel past Watford, he'll choose
Arsenal.
The easier option and stay in London.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Casado might go there. That's why I'm saying that.
Yeah.
I think Casado goes to Arsenal instead of Declan, and they don't need them both. So that's why I think Declan will go to United.
Did Casado not play right back for Brighton in the last few games?
He plays everywhere, doesn't he?
Unbelievable.
Yeah. But they've got to be very careful with that one because Basuma was talked about in the same vein, and he went to Tottenham, he's hardly played.
Yeah.
Brighton just get raided, don't they? Right, will West Ham win the Europa Conference League?
Yes.
Nice, okay. Which, if any, of Burnley, Sheffield United and Luton stay up next season?
None of them.
I have to be brutally honest here. I think it's going to be a huge task for Luton to stay in the Premier League, to get the players to. I mean, what they've actually achieved, what both of clubs actually achieved. Coventry didn't make it, but what they achieved from where they've come from and how they've done it shows their infrastructure has been planned out brilliantly. But staying in that league would be difficult. Sheffield United and Burnley will all be about how good the recruitment is, and and what players will they can attract to go to those clubs.
Vinny's done brilliant there. When you watch the way they play, you can't get away with playing like that in the Premier League. Not all of the time.
Well, he tried that at Man City in the cup, did he?
They will nick the ball off you. They will set traps, and they will punish you every time you get the ball away. In a championship, you do not get punished. But I'm sure he's clever enough to realise that. But he needs to find a different way. He needs to mix it up and not be stubborn on just the tippy-tappy stuff.
Tippy-tappy stuff.
It's catching on, isn't it?
Yes, it really is, isn't it? There we go. 2 questions left. Which 3 Leeds players would you like to work with again?
I like 3 Leeds players I'd like to work with. Robin Koch, I thought was great. Really, really determined. I thought that Luke Ayling, dedicated, loves the football club. Like you mean, I think that everything that he wants to be, and I think that Jack Harrison's commitment to Leeds United is excellent. There are some good players there. There's no doubt about that, but collectively they weren't good enough in the Premier League.
I got one for you, Tyler Adams, the one you never got.
Yeah, but I never got to see him, so I couldn't.
I'd like to see you work
comment.
next
Like you mean, I think that. Although one thing they can say, and if Leeds fans are listening, obviously apologise for them that I couldn't keep them up. Like you mean, but we did try, and the players did try their hardest. They didn't shirk the responsibility to try. Yeah. It just unfortunately wasn't good enough on the day, and I think more mentally, it was difficult for them to cope with than it was physically and technically. But the journey was nice for me to see what's changed. Like I mean, and what has changed is too many people complicating the game, too many coaches trying to breed their input on, it's a low block, it's a
half space.
Half space. It's a false number 9. It's an inverted wide man. It's a so it's not that. It's simple.
I don't think you attack their launch pads enough. So.
No, well, you know what I mean. Well, it's one of them. Yeah, I haven't got no rockets behind me.
Let me ask you one question. Sorry, Nat.
Okay.
Weston McKennie, when did you find out he had a long throw? Because they never found out
straight away.
So what did you go in there and say, who can throw it, guys?
Yeah, straight away. And then we put him on the pitch, or Carl put him on the pitch, and we went, yes.
There it is.
There we go.
He throws it with one hand, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he gets away with it.
Absolutely, you're right there. It's there. I mean, a fantastic tool and asset. I mean, put Tottenham under huge pressure, give us a couple of chances that we can't convert. And of course, in the past, you can, or I've been personally criticised for using those tools, like you mean, but the magnificent tools to have in your locker, because everybody uses them if they've got it. Yeah. In the end, you will use it if you've got it. Like your quality of ball in from set pieces is about how many goals you score.
Yeah.
because the first thing is the quality's not there. You're not going to score any goals, and then after that, it's the determination, the size of your players who want to score it. But those are the basics that you got to get right. And it's like everywhere on the pitch, basics need to be carried out in and out of possession, and then you get if you can't do that better than the opposition, you can't get as much. If I'm playing a team much better, there's one thing I can do better than Man City is win the ball back in knockdown areas, or shut them off on throw-ins and win it back, or win the knockdowns and plan to do that. This is only one of the few things that we can do better than Manchester City. But unfortunately, Man City are really good at those as well. Yeah. And that's why they're the best. So you work all those basics out and then you look at the quality of your team. I was seeing balls go under players' feet on Sunday and going, oh, wow, that can only be pressure. Yeah. Because on the training ground, it never happened. Yeah. It was fluid. Yeah. It was move, running the right areas, playing the right. But then come the day of the game, it was like, and it went under the foot, or the pass went astray, or the ball bounced off them. Yeah. And then you're looking and thinking, well, that can only be the pressure of the day that they can't actually handle, unfortunately. Yeah. Another quick fire.
Love that, yeah. Right, the last question of the day. Your score predictions for the FA Cup, please.
Wow.
And I'm going to do mine today as well. What do you think?
What I think you're going to pick. I'll go for. Man United will score. I think that Rashford will burst in off the left-hand side, but they will get beat 3-1. Man City 3, Man United 1.
I think Manchester United's chances of winning are this: that the Champions League just plays on City's mind a bit too much, and they take advantage of it. So I'll say 2-1 Man United.
Oh, Sam, are you really? Oh my goodness. Okay, I wasn't expecting that, Tim. Okay.
I wasn't expecting you to want City to beat Leeds when you sat here with a man.
Are you dubbing me in, Tim? Sorry, Sam.
That wasn't very nice. I told you at the time.
You did say you were going to tell him.
That's only on the basis that there may be some fear on the Champions League final that might just.
There's some questions around fitness.
If I'm playing in a FA Cup final, which is one of the greatest things to play, and obviously I've never had that experience, of course. I think you Aston Villa when that's when we lost on penalties in the semi-final. When you can win a Champions League, which the club's been so close to so often, it's much bigger than the FA Cup final. So you just wonder whether that might just prey on the mind, or Pep's selection is
looking towards.
Is it a full-blown Man City? Even though both teams are. Yeah. I mean, what would Man City's second 11 finish? Top 4? Yeah. Probably, wouldn't they? You know what I mean? But that's the only reckoning behind it. That's all.
Yeah, it's a fair point. And we hear this week that Ruben
Man United will have to be on top of the game to win it. Yeah. They'll have to play the best.
They've got a puncher's chance, haven't they? That's always right. But City are going to win 4-1. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of No Tippy Tappy Football. It's so lovely. We've had Tim and Sam. Thank you. Lovely to see you both. We will be back next week.
Good luck, mate.
Thank you very much.
Hope to see you next week.
You never know.
Perhaps not.
We've no idea how many gaffers we're going to have next week or which gaffer we're going to have, but we will be back ahead of the Champions League final.